Mr. Chairman, for your leadership on this effort, and certainly for the witnesses who are here today as we start to look at this. Certainly on March 20th of this year, the administration released the President's Management Agenda. As we well know, that agenda lays out the administration's long-term vision for improving the performance of the federal government, states the specific goals of this administration to improve the ability of agencies to deliver mission outcomes. And I think that's a critical point, is as we look at those outcomes, it is certainly something that all Americans can welcome. Provide excellent service. In this very hearing, we've had a number of hearings where with the IRS, the ranking member and I have said that the service levels in terms of getting a live person is not something that we ought to be bragging about. So as we look at that, it's really about being an effective steward of the American taxpayers' dollars. This administration has identified 3 key drivers of this transformation: information technology, modernization, the data accountability, and the transparency, and then certainly the workforce for the 21st century. All 3 of these drivers are certainly interconnected, and success in improving that performance of the federal government cannot be achieved without progress in all 3 of those areas. Today, however, we will focus on that 3rd driver, developing a workforce for the 21st century, which is a core jurisdictional responsibility of this committee under the House rules. Federal employees underpin nearly all of the operations of the government, and we must ensure that we continue to hire and retain the best and brightest. I've been very disappointed to find that many times members of Congress only go to federal agencies to complain, not to assess what is going on. And so I have found it very illuminating and very rewarding, quite frankly, with our federal workforce when we go in to actually have conversations with the people that do the work. And I've been fascinated by their ability to give great suggestions on how we might improve the efficiency of the federal workforce. In fact, I would also say their recommendations are better than any that would come out of this committee on either side of the aisle, because they understand both the barriers, the roadblocks, and also the disincentives that we have within our 40-year-old civil service way of doing business. So I want to thank both of you as we look at this particular issue. I think probably the most important thing that we can do is stay laser focused on the ultimate goal of this 3rd rail, which is looking at how do we retain, how do we make sure that we properly compensate, and yes, you're hearing that from a Republican, and how do we make sure that as we deal with all of those, whether it's the annual survey that we sometimes, in fact, we get the annual survey. I see my good friend in the audience here. As we look at the surveys, how do we actually take those and make an action point? This committee is committed to do that in a bipartisan fashion, but I also think that it's going to require many of us to perhaps pull away the old thinking that we have that it has to be this way or that way or no way, and work in a real bipartisan way to make sure that we have an effective workforce. So I look forward to hearing from both of the witnesses, and I thank the chairman for his leadership.